When it comes to Detroit Lions GM Brad Holmes, he is always on the look for the best possible bargain to improve the team. And now, that time has come once again, and the Lions are on the prowl for under-the-radar free agents. And we're going to talk about it in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10-5, end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions. And
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in. But before we dive on in, again, I just want to say to all my loyal fans and subscribers, again, thank you all for coming back. Thank you all for everything that you do. Absolutely means the world to me that have such loyal fans and subscribers. And to those that are tuning into the show for the very first time, I just want to say thank you all for giving my show a shot. I hope you all enjoy the content. But even more so, I hope to gain your all subscription if I've earned and deserved it. And with that being said, to everybody, I just want to say, hope you all are having a great day. God bless, and let's dive into the show. So, here's the thing, folks. When we consider Brad Holmes, when we consider the Detroit Lions, there is one thing that we can definitely say about Brad Holmes that has been proven true time and time again. Brad Holmes knows how to find great deals. He knows how to find great deals at low prices, and he knows how to find great talent at low prices. What I'm specifically referring to is that Brad Holmes knows and has an eye for talent, and also knows that he also does not have to always pay top dollar to necessarily get it. I'm specifically referring to free agency, but this same kind of, how should I say, description and methodology could also be applied to Brad Holmes' draft strategy. Regardless, the point of the matter is that Brad Holmes is very frugal, he is very smart, he is very fiscal with understanding how to get the best possible talent at the lowest possible price without putting the team in jeopardy financially. Now, here's the thing. When we get to the offseason, there are always teams that are looking to find a way to improve themselves from their previous year. Some teams go about this in a completely different opposite perspective than what Brad Holmes has done. They will go out and they will spend like crazy, like it is a fire sale, and they will try and gobble up as much top-end talent as they possibly can and will spend through the literal nose a whole bunch of cap space to try and get however many freaking free agents that they can, is what I'm in essence getting here. Sometimes they get 3, sometimes they get 4, sometimes they get 5. The point of the matter is, sometimes teams will go through all the cap space they have to get as many top-end free agents that they have. However, though, if there's one thing we know about Brad Holmes is that Brad Holmes does not necessarily always go for the top-end free agents. Again, to reference to an episode that I just literally made, I'll put that episode back up at the top. Brad Holmes is looking for guys that are cultural fits first, but are also talented. And what does that mean as far as cultural fits? Well, 1, it means you have to be a hard worker. But also 2, it means that the team has got to come first above all else, which means, listen, you've got to be willing to potentially take less money to come play for the Detroit Lions. Now, understand where I'm going with this. The Lions, over the last couple of years, have seen a dramatic increase and a dramatic improvement on how they've been able to perform, which definitely helps and aids in this prospect. Because it's like, listen, if you're a team that's doing really well, you can convince players to come play for you for less money. If you're not playing particularly well, not necessarily going to be a very easy job of doing that. But the point of the matter is, being 12 and, having a 12-5 season this year, the Lions getting to the NFC Conference Championship game, the Lions have a lot of bargaining power to say, hey, listen, if you want to come play for us, you're going to have to take less money, but it's going to be all worth it in the end. Now, what I'm specifically referring to in this episode are under-the-radar free agents that the Lions could potentially be interested in. Now, why am I talking about under-the-radar free agents? Because everybody's already talking about the ones that are the big free agent names. Such guys like Josh Allen, such names like Hunter, such names like freaking Brian Burns. We've also heard potential trade rumors, and these are all great, juicy storylines. But I am, again, a guy that likes to take a look at what is practical, what is realistic, what is something that has has an actual chance of working here. Yes, I know possibly getting Josh Allen or Brian Burns or Hunter are all really, really great ideas, and I would love it if we could do that. But what's the actual practicality of that happening? Not very good, especially considering Brad Holmes' track record with not necessarily wanting to pay through the nose for guys like that. So let's find guys that are a little bit less expensive, but are still good in terms of talent. So that's where this episode is. So, without further ado, let's go into the content here. When we think about probably one of the biggest areas that Lions fans are calling, they are clamoring for Brad Holmes to make an improvement this offseason, it is the pass rush. Why? Well, again, like I talked about in a previous episode, which I just released, I'll put that episode back up at the top, Lions fans want Brad Holmes to bring in another pass rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Now, he just did that by signing Matthew Betts, who just played with the Canadian Football League and was a star up there in Canada. However, though, if there's one thing I know about Brad Holmes, that is not the only move he is going to make, nor should he. I mean, again, Betts is a guy that has a lot of potential, but we don't know if he's going to pan out. So you want to make sure you have somebody else that you can bring in as a potential backup or as a potential different option rather than just relying solely on Betts. So I fully expect that Brad Holmes is not done adding to the pass rushing unit. So what are some guys that the Lions could realistically be interested in that are under the radar, that are not necessarily going to cost an arm and a leg, but are still going to provide extra boost and extra kind of, zip to help this pass rushing unit opposite of Aiden Hutchinson? For me, there are two guys that instantaneously come out. Now, before I mention them, I know some people are like, well, David, what about James Houston? We still have him. Again, I don't really know how much James Houston is going to be a factor at this point. Again, when you just sign Betts, it's like, listen, he's going to really have to step up his A game because, again, I'm going to say this. The injury he sustained this year did not really help him out. It did not help him in any sort of sense of the word. It's going to make it even much more difficult for him to try and have any sort of realistic playing time. So, again, this is why we're having this conversation. But when you're talking about edge rushers that I consider under the radar that the Lions could realistically go after that are not necessarily going to break the bank, there are two guys, like I said, that stand out. The first one is this guy, Dallas Cowboys edge rusher Dorrance Armstrong. Now, take a look at Dorrance Armstrong. When you take a look at his stats, you take a look at his profile, there's not necessarily anything about him that is a huge wow factor. There's not anything about him that's amazing or like, oh, this guy's got something that's really, really special. But you have to understand something here. We know something about Brad Holmes as well. He's not necessarily looking for wow factor. He's looking for consistency. He is looking for guys that will consistently show up and will consistently make plays. That definitely is Dorrance Armstrong. Let's take a look at Armstrong's last 3 years. The last 3 years that he's been in the NFL with the Cowboys, he's compiled 21 sacks. And in 2022 and in 2023, he was the Cowboys' second leading sack artist behind Micah Parsons. Considering how good the Cowboys' defense has been the last couple of years, especially this year, that's a pretty impressive achievement, I would say. Again, when you take a look at Armstrong, he has a variety of different pass rush moves. He's got excellent burst off the line. He also has great arm length, so that's definitely going to help him out. He operates best out of a four-man front, which our defense is a four-man front. It is a 4-2-5 defense. And so again, this is a guy that I think could really help with the Lions. He really could be a fit here. Now, I'm going to say this. One of the things I have noticed and one of the things I've read in player profiles is he likes to work from the inside and his favorite move is a spin move. However, though, as an edge rusher, he's good at getting after the quarterback and applying pressure that way. But his main weakness as a player is he's not as developed, he's not as good in the run defense. So that is an area that will definitely need to be improved upon if the Lions were to potentially go out and sign this guy. So, Dorrance Armstrong, first under the radar free agent that I think the Lions could potentially be interested in. Now, another guy that I think the Lions could be interested in that I think is a little bit better than Armstrong is this guy that is playing with the New York Jets currently, and that is a guy by the name of Bryce Huff. Huff last season, so this 2023 season, he had an absolute breakout year. He had 10 sacks producing for Robert Saleh's defense. Again, another four-man front defense. So again, we know that if this guy were to come and play for the Lions, he should be able to work very well within that 4-2-5 scheme that freaking, Aaron Glenn likes to run. We also know that if you take a look at, Bryce Huff's production, those 10 sacks that I was talking about, that was actually top 25 in the league this last year. He had 67 pressures, which was also top 15 in the league this last year. And his pass rush win rate of 22.9% was actually 6th best in the league, which is actually better than Aiden Hutchinson's, which was ranked at 8th and had a 21.3% pass rush win rate. So think about that right there. This guy, Bryce Huff, had a better pass rush win rate than Aiden Hutchinson, and again, was still a very good effective edge rusher in getting pressure on the quarterback and getting sacks as well. So think about this. If you were to pair him and Aiden Hutchinson together, you'd have a pretty formidable tandem right there. Now, I will say this, again, just like Dorrance Armstrong, he is still developing as a run defender. But again, he is young. There is a potential that he can get better and better as time goes by. But my whole point is this. He is a fit with what the defense is doing schematically. He's always putting in 100% effort. And again, he is a great edge threat opposite of Aiden Hutchinson if the Lions were to go after him. So I think it'd be a great 1-2 combo. And again, he is nowhere going to cost anywhere near as much as guys like Allen, Hunter, or Brian Burns. So again, under the radar, and definitely not going to cost near as much. So those are the edge rushers that I think are under the radar signings that the Lions could go after. The next under the radar free agent that I think the Lions could actually go after is one that Lions fans are actually pretty well acquainted with, and that is wide receiver Darnell Mooney. Now, I know this for a fact. Some people are going to be like, David, why the hell are we talking about a wide receiver? We got Jameson Williams. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've got Khalif Raymond. We've got wide receivers. Understand why I'm talking about Darnell Mooney here. The reason I'm talking about Darnell Mooney is because I think he could potentially be a replacement for Josh Reynolds if the Lions don't bring back Reynolds. Now, why am I talking about Mooney as an under-the-radar free agent? Well, the reason why is because the last 2 seasons, Darnell Mooney has not done particularly well as far as a production standpoint. I think both seasons he's gotten under 500 yards producing, and again, it's one of those things where, okay, because of that lack of production in the past, you could potentially get him for a lot less money. But if there's one thing us Lions fans know about Mooney, is that this is a guy that has proven in the past to be both explosive and extremely productive as a wide receiver. Go back to 2021. Darnell Mooney had a 1,000-plus receiving yard season. I think it was actually 1,055 yards, and he caught 81 passes that year. So that right there shows me that the guy has the ability to be productive. And again, like I was talking about explosive, Mooney is extremely fast. He's got 4.38 speed. So think about this. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, who's extremely fast. You've got freaking Jameson Williams, who's extremely fast. Then add potentially Darnell Mooney to that factor. You've got literally 3 guys that are on that field at any one particular time. That is going to stress the ever-living hell out of a defense. And that right there is something that I think that freaking Ben Johnson and Jared Goff would absolutely love to have, because it's like, okay, now we can further exploit what this offense can do. Now we have yet another weapon that is going to stress a defense that is going to make their job extremely difficult to try and stop what we're doing. Now again, like I said, some people might look at this recommendation and say, but David, we still have guys like Khalif Raymond, who's also fast as well. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown. We have J-Mo. Why do we need to go after Mooney? Do we really need to sign him? Again, if the Lions don't bring back Josh Reynolds, and I know that there are some Lions fans that do not want Josh Reynolds back because of what happened in the conference championship game. But you have to understand something here. In my honest opinion, I think Darnell Mooney is a really interesting option because we have seen him play outside, and that was when he had that 1,000-yard season. When he was playing outside for the Chicago Bears, and I'm talking about the outside wide receiver role, he was really prolific for them. The only reason the last 2 years that Mooney hasn't done particularly well is because they moved him from the outside role to the inside slot role, and that was when his production literally plummeted off a cliff. Also, I think there's probably a reason or a cause that you could say that, maybe the quarterback play has also kind of helped that, or the fact that DJ Moore got there last year. Either way, I think bringing in Darnell Mooney, another speed option, another prolific weapon, could really help out the Lions offense even further than where it went to in 2023. It's just an option. It's just a potential, idea. I'm not saying that the Lions will do it, but it's really tantalizing in my opinion. Now, wouldn't you agree? Now, the final guy that I can think of that the Lions could go after as an under-the-radar free agent is a guy by the name of Robert Hunt. He is a guard for the Dolphins at this point. Now, why am I bringing up an offensive lineman? The reason why I'm bringing up an offensive lineman is because there are a lot of Lions fans that are wondering about the guard position in particular, because it's like, okay, we know Taylor Decker's coming back. We know we got Penei Sewell long-term. And we just found out a couple of days ago that Frank Ragnow is not retiring. He is going to be coming back as well. So it's like, okay, the center and tackle positions are taken care of. But the interior offensive line, as far as the guard positions, there is a huge amount of question marks and flux at that position because Jonah Jackson needs a new contract, Graham Glasgow needs a new contract, and now you're starting to wonder, well, are we going to bring them back or are we going to potentially look somewhere else? Jonah Jackson, I believe, will get a new deal. He's like, what, 26, 27 years old? He's got plenty of tread still left on his tires. The problem, though, is that with Graham Glasgow, he's on the opposite end of that spectrum. He's almost 32 years old, and he has stated that he wants more money on his next deal. So it's like, wait a minute. You're 32 years old. You're obviously going to want more money. You're probably going to want a much longer deal than what you got this last offseason. I don't know if that financially makes a lot of sense for the Lions or is something that the Lions are going to want to do. So it's time to go bargain shopping a little bit. Hence the reason why we talk about Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt is a guy that, in my opinion, again, would be a perfect fit with the Lions. This is a guy that can play both guard and tackle in a pinch. So, again, versatility on the offensive line, something that we know Dan Campbell loves about offensive linemen with this group. So, okay, that's already taken care of. I also love this guy's size. He's 6'6", 335 pounds. So this is a guy that definitely knows how to throw around his weight both as a guard and a potential tackle. So, again, that's something else I like. We also have to take a look at his stats. This guy is pretty good in terms of both his run blocking and in terms of his pass blocking. Typically, when it comes to offensive linemen, they're usually a little bit better at one or the other. But from what I can tell, this guy's actually pretty good at both. There's not really a weakness in terms of his run or pass blocking sets. However, though, that does not mean he does not have any weaknesses. One of his biggest weaknesses ever since he got into the NFL, I should say, is penalties. Over the last 4 years that he's been in the NFL, he has been called for penalties 29 times. That's a bit of a problem with me. That doesn't necessarily mean all 29 penalties were accepted, by the way, but when you're getting called for penalties that many times over a 4-year period, that definitely does cause some concern. Now, granted, this last year, he only got called for 2 penalties, so that's a significant improvement, but it is something that does cause a little cause for concern for me. But I have to think about it from the perspective of, okay, you have Graham Glasgow, who's 32 years old. He says he wants more money. Okay, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that perspective or with that wish. But it's like, if I'm taking a look at this from a financial perspective, from a long-term perspective, giving a contract to a 27-year-old Robert Hunt, which is going to be able to spread out that financial disparity over the length of the deal, rather than giving a whole lot of money to a 1 or 2 year deal to Graham Glasgow, I just think that makes a little bit better sense in my opinion. Again, whether or not Brad Holmes decides to do that, I don't know. But I think that all of these guys could potentially be fits here with the Lions, and you could get them for relatively at a decent price. You're not necessarily going to have to pay through the nose to get these guys. That's just my personal opinion. Again, I'm not a GM. I'm not a guy that does financial numbers with teams. I'm just simply taking a look at what's available and saying, hey, these are guys that people aren't necessarily talking about, but they could potentially be guys that the Lions could go after. So you guys can take a look at these names. Tell me what you guys think respectfully. But having said that, I think I've reached the end of this episode, so I want to just say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also, highly encourage y'all, please, to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you've not had a chance to do so, again, I highly want to encourage y'all to please subscribe. It helps out my channel, and I'm thankful for every subscription that I can get. But I also want to encourage y'all, please, make sure you hit that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure we turn on that notification icon, so that way as soon as I push something out, you guys can always jump right back into the show. I also want to encourage y'all, please, to help in that endeavor by sharing this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with anybody and everybody that you can. Again, the more we share it, the greater the channel spread is, which means we get more people in, which means the channel does better growing-wise. So again, please share the content if you're willing to. And with that being said, to everybody, I again just want to say thank you all for watching the content. Thank you all for your devotion to the channel. Hopefully I gained you a subscription if I had not done so before, and if so, welcome to the MCM family. If I still haven't earned that subscription, hopefully you'll come on back and I'll get another chance to do so. But until that time, I just want to again say to everybody, God bless. Hope you all had a great day. Hope you all are doing well. And with that, I'll see you all in the next episode.